was here when I went back and looked at my calendar, it was June 24th. It sure doesn't seem that long. Some of it screened by. But at that meeting, we went through a pretty detailed presentation of where you were at with your enterprise fund for the sewer department, and we noted that last year you were in the red almost 16.1%, which meant that you were operating in a deficit. And that was bad news at the time, and it's worse in that we have a need to upgrade the wastewater treatment plant. So it would seem to me that we are going to get further in the hole as time goes on because of the expenses that will be incurred in that upgrade. We were sent away to put together an application for a mass limit grant. The PCA changed its rules after they initially published them in February, and we were not eligible for that. We could have pushed the issue, but it would have resulted in a change in our permit, which we would not have wanted. We wouldn't have wanted to have more monitoring requirements. All they would have given us would have been a mass limit on fecals, which is a measure of how much bacterial contamination there is in the wastewater, and we would have, over a period of 5 years, spent more money testing than we would have gotten with grants. So we did not apply for that meager amount of grants. That means that we do have a shortfall in our funding program, and we have not yet heard back from FEMA or Homeland Security on their portion of the project, which, as you will recall, was to pay for the headworks repaired to the plant. In talking with Jeff Coakley, he continues to have mechanical problems with the headworks. His screw pumps do not work properly, and it would seem that sometime in the near future we're going to have to address that issue. Presently, we have plans and specifications over at the PCA that talk about everything except the headworks renovation. What I would like to suggest to you is that as far as the plans go, you have two options. The first option, as is shown in my memo, would be to proceed and add the design for the headworks in the plans that you will be bidding out probably later this fall, but bid it on the basis where they would be a separate cost, and at that time we can determine whether or not we've got the FEMA money and we can go ahead. Or we could wait until such time as the headworks falls apart and we come up with a separate project for that. We had estimated it would cost about $22,000 to do the headworks portion of the plans, to go back and change things. Those plans would be usable at a later date if we didn't get the funding this time. So the first issue is, can we proceed with the plan upgrade and include the headworks redesign in that? And that would entail a cost, an additional cost of $22,000 at this time to do that. The second issue is, how do we pay for it long term? And we're already in the red by 16%. We had suggested to you back in June that you're looking about a 35% rate increase. I did a comparison with neighboring communities and gave you a copy of that in the handout. I believe you got it in your July packet also. But with the rate increase, we would be looking through 2011 as out of 10 cities we would be less than 7 of them, and through 2012, and that presumes they'll keep their rates the same as they are now. So it would seem to me that the rates that we're talking about are probably in the ballpark for what your competition as far as wastewater treatment costs are in the neighborhood. Cities that would be less than you would be Caledonia, Grand Meadow, Spring Valley, and St. Charles, which are for the most part all larger than the city of Rushford. So we're asking for two things, Mr. Mayor. First would be your thoughts on whether or not to proceed with the design of the headworks. And secondly, we'd like to suggest that you schedule a public hearing for a rate increase. And in talking this over with Kathy, it would seem that somewhere on the order of October 11th would be an appropriate date for that hearing.
do take this to bid, can we put that Headworks project as a line item like we did with the paving and stuff at the airport?
An alternate.
An alternate, yeah,
Yeah.
that's something that you can put in or pull out.
That's what I would suggest. It could be a separate cost, and it would also discriminate the cost. If we did get FEMA, it would be identified on the bid as something that would be assigned to that. We did that on the water plant also. By way of the conversation back in June, you had asked us to take a look at 34% increase right off the bat, and Mr. Dahl had asked for a 10% increase each year. I looked at the 10% one, and you don't ever really catch up that way, so I did not present that as one of the options for tonight. We would catch up, but it would take about 5 years to do.
Are there any other sources of possible funding? It's kind of a big blow to lose that grant.
Yeah, there's some things out there, there's some stuff coming down from the federal government that may come down depending upon when the election goes. Right now, we've kind of maxed out what we can get at the state level.
So chances aren't very good. Spent enough.
Well, I'm still hopeful that we'll get the FEMA. Do you have any thoughts on that, maybe?
No, I think the respondents of evidence was, when they were here, they felt pretty strongly that there's something drastically wrong with it. But translating that into money is another thing. Thought they spent a lot of time documenting their visit.
But Mr. Dahl is right, we're short 20% of the cost of the solid settling portion of the project, which amounted to $161,000, which is not in the present funding plan. I would like to suggest to you that we're basing everything on estimates just now. There is a 15% contingency in our estimate, and we don't really know where the numbers are going to come in at. As long as the economy stays soft and we can get out and get bids, I think we may be pleasantly surprised with what our bottom line is. On the other hand, if the economy does take off and we bid this thing next summer, I wouldn't be so confident. We have to do something about the rates regardless. It's,
Nothing would be started this fall.
the soonest we could start, Bob, would probably be next April or May. And at that time, we would only do what we could afford to do.